It's a very nice introduction, and while I was listening to you, it seems that 2/3 of my whole life was passing.
In fact, there are many more things to tell you about you. I have seen your publications since 2002. It is linearly going up. Every year it is going up, and huge publication. Kudos to that.
Yeah, it's a part of the things I will share with you. But first of all, I'm a researcher, so I don't know most of the public's name I see. But let's say that I hope in the audience we have academic people. I hope in the audience we have consulting people, people from industry. Wherever you come from, I think there are some. Hints that I could inspire you with some of the things I've been through in my professional life in trees. So I have a short description, and I have divided my time with you in with the guideline I received from the organizer, and hopefully we will also save time for discussion with you right after. But before of that, maybe to introduce a few elements, I have some slides to diffuse. I know it's not anymore an obvious tradition to diffuse slides, but let's say that beyond slides, I would like to connect you with my screen in order maybe to go beyond slide and also propose you some demonstrator. So like software demonstration out of my research, which could be useful also for your understanding of my proposal to contribute to trees, aside all of my colleagues, probably the previous person you have interviewed with the TRIZtalks and the next. So I see there is a button share. So if I can
Yes,
share,
please,
and I
please share.
believe I can share
Yeah,
my screen.
you have
Okay.
rights to share.
And I can, you see my screen?
Not yet.
I see the red circle is blinking around my screen.
That is of recording.
Okay. Still, it's strange. It should be automatic. So maybe now? No?
Not yet. Maybe it would take some time.
Okay. Let me try it again. It means shared content, screen one. Shared.
Yeah, now it is loading.
Great. So fantastic. So this is the introduction that I shared it with a small agenda in accordance with your proposal of structuring the talk. A brief introduction of myself, aside what you have just said, just in order to locate my major achievement. Of course, I am focusing only in the trees aspect, because I believe trees talk are made for talking about trees. Okay, major contribution that I would like to share with you from the time where I myself learned trees, and from what I consider as a potential contribution I can claim in the world of trees, and some various experiences that I'm ready to share with you, mostly in a dimension that concerns directly my activity. It's academia, but as you know, a professor is also normally also active in contact with industry. So I also have a lot of side activity with industrial people and some demonstrators about our research, because I consider now research can only be diffused widely if it has a demonstrator to simplify the understanding of the contribution. So this is the agenda for that I have prepared for you. So I am belong for the Instra group. So I think most of you know France, at least by name. Maybe you've been physically one time in vacation in Paris. So France has got several network of engineering school. I belong to the #1 engineering school network of France, and we weight 14% of the overall population of engineers in the country. So it's really a strong network of several thousand, 100,000 engineers now, and I belong to one of them, the one in Strasbourg area. Okay. So we have, as an engineering school, various departments from mechanical engineering to computer science, system, industrial engineering, architecture, biotechnology, environmental engineering, civil engineering. We have a big university behind, from the research aspect I belong to. It's the University of Strasbourg. Strasbourg University is 45,000 students, which is a large number in Europe. My research activity are within the network of what we call CNRS, which is the highest scientific authority in the country. And iCube is my research lab, the lab in which I conduct the research activity. And in the name of this lab is iCube. iCube accounts 682 researchers, so it's a big lab in Europe. And we only active in engineering science, and we are divided into 17 teams. I have the honor to head one of these 17 teams. The name of my team is CZIP. CZIP means design, information system, and inventive processes. So what really motivates us in my team is the inventive process and the way we could formalize it. The team is constituted of 40 researchers, so it's on inventive design. I don't call it TRIZ because we could discuss it later, but evoking the fact that we are doing research in TRIZ is sometimes disturbs a little bit academical circles. So I transformed it into inventive design activities, but for those who know what we are doing, obviously there is always some TRIZ-related fundamentals behind what we do. So the research team is constituted like many teams. We have full-time, full professors. We have associate professors. We have doctorate, PhD student, postdoc student, and masters. And all in all, it accounts 40 people. Just to give you the size of my team. So my TRIZ origin, in a few slides, I would like to share with you this picture that brings me back almost 30 years ago. But this is where the year where everybody starts for me. And it was probably one of the most intense moments of my life is when I discovered TRIZ. I was in California and I was attending the tutorial session of Dr. Taguchi. For those of you who are in industry, you can't miss the theory of Taguchi, which is the father of robust design and who has so greatly contributed to design of experiment. And I was in his lecture and his sessions, and I was never satisfied with optimizing the data within the circle of known facts, known parameter, and known value of these parameter, and being satisfied in only optimizing what exists in terms of parameters and values was not satisfying me as a curious researcher, a young researcher at that time. And Dr. Taguchi get angry with me and he says, why don't you go to TRIZ lecture if you want to escape from the Pareto front of possibles? Okay, what is trees? I was an early beginner. I never heard about trees. We were in 95 and I was attending his lecture. So I discovered trees in American Supply Institute in USA through Dr. Taguchi's training. And he kicked me out of his course and he says, you should go to the next room. And in the next room, you have Zinovi Roizen, which is delivering a trees tutorial. So this is where all begins for me, because when I got back to France with my handout material under my arm, I finally discovered that nobody has never heard about trees in France at those time, and it was really difficult time to make understand that there is a new methodology, there is a new approach, whether you call it theory, method, tool, or philosophy. There is trees. It's a fact now, and the world now needs to count on trees for its future. So year after year, in '98, I found and I was the first president of TRIZtalks Association. Then I was co-founding this and second president of ETRIA. Maybe some of you knew or know European Trees Association in 1999. I was then co-founder of the first diploma on trees, which is a full master degree named Advanced Master in Inventive Design. It's a program, a one-year program delivered by 11 professors at INSA Strasbourg. We stopped it in 2012, 10 years after. I co-founded a research group at IFIP. Some of you might know International Federation of Information Processing, which is one of the highest scientific authority. And I co-founded the group Computer-Aided Innovation, which is a working group 4.5. Then I was co-founding the Trees Consortium group in the country with large-scale company willing to promote trees in the country, including PSA, Peugeot, Citroën, for those who know car constructor, including Electricity of France, including Airbus Industries, and some of the big industrial player in the country. I graduated as a full professor in 2099, because before those time I was only an associate professor, and then I ran for being a full professor, and after that I had the chance to head the research group before heading the team in inventive design since 2011. Of course, many years after, I have found now the IR Industrial Share, Artificial Intelligence Assisted R&D, which is now my major project in my professional life. I will tell you more about that. And I'm about to think with one of my colleagues. I think he's attending to the lecture today, which will be for 2023, next year. Second startup in my life, and I hope that I am at this moment of my life, I am in a position to diffuse into society most of my achievement as a professor for the past 30 years. So I probably had the first master degree in trees in 1996. I probably published the first paper in the country about trees in France in 1997. I probably one of the first PhD in Europe in 1999 about trees. I have my first patent using trees in 2001. I was director of research and in a PhD program, not my PhD, but now my students' PhD. And all along, I think I have now mentored and directed about 20 PhD on trees in the past 20 years. One of my company I work with launched its first product about trees-based product in 2007, which was a marketing success in using trees and diffusing trees as a product. I did my full professorship at those time, and then I conducted research, launched my first startup at this time. So now I'm really I don't like to say at the end of my career, but I'm not at the beginning anymore. So I am at the moment, let's say, a switchover point in which I believe I have achieved. I still have about 5 years to perform research, pure research, I mean, before in parallel starting to think about how this research can be now transferred into society using maybe a different S-curve in my professional life. So our research objectives are very clear. Let me summarize it in one sentence. Can we formalize the act of inventing to the point of digitizing it? This is really what I'm running after. I don't want to call it an invention machine, but I would like to call it an inventor assistant, intelligent. I would like to give if I give a name to my talk, I would say scientific and technological intelligence. Could we think about such an assistant uh, in R&D department? Because who is inventing? Researchers, engineers, all those who have problem to solve within the context of industrial activities. I'm not really not interested, but I'm not claiming anything in a business. Okay, I'm only talking about any domain of industry that could be patented, from electronics to automotive to whatever domain in industry. But I don't have any claims in business. Can we switch from a random and opportunistic inventive process to an organized and efficient one, not relying on trial and errors or brainstorming? And you can hope to digitize it only if you formalize the process behind. Nowadays, I'm not only to think about that. So I would like to exchange with you a few readings. So I'm obviously ready to exchange my slide and diffuse my slides. And you are strongly invited to read those papers. They are available on the web. So I'm just referring to them because they have really inspired me these last 4 or 5 years, because it's really a world concerns nowadays. Artificial intelligence is now unavoidable, and in many domains of industry, not only in the shop floor, not only to optimize with sensors the relationship with client demand, the way the organization self-organize itself to furnish a demand, or to self-organize internally the company physical means to produce. It's also now invading intellectually the company. And it's important to note that nowadays we do have also to think about artificial intelligence as an assistant to invention. And I don't want to say that artificial intelligence will replace human inventors, but my major concern is, will it be an assistant, a smart assistant? Probably yes, but not only giving to artificial intelligence the task to find a data. It's much more to assist also problem formulation, not only problem solving, not only finding data intelligently. And this is why we do have to perform research into this. Another article I would like to cite is the impact of artificial intelligence on innovation, which is also an important quote about a large survey about journalism, but scientifically. And this is really what's going to be a major topic of interest in industry and worldwide in society in the coming years. This is what I would like to share with you as the point up to which I am now. I consider that if industry is interested to advances in an intelligent assistant in R&D, they should fund it, not only academia. Academia is here to fund the PhDs, the professor's salary, etc. But if we build a tool useful for industry, it's also to industry to take its part into the funding of that. and then they will benefit from intelligent tool in the future. So I would like to exchange with you logos of companies I constituted, which are now my major funding party in my objectives. It means building this inventor assistant within the coming years. We all have the same sentence in mind. This is my roadmap and my objective. Build a set of intelligent tools that accompany users real time from the expression of their problem to the most relevant scientific and technical information likely to solve it. It has axes of research. We aim to extract and digitize knowledge from all types of documents, mainly unstructured text. We want to automate the pairing of problems and solutions. The TRIZ way. I'm not mentioning TRIZ, but you could think that behind of all what I say, there is TRIZ. The notion of contradiction, mostly, but not only. Maybe substance field structured way of expressing a physical situation. Real-time enrichment, because information arrive every second, especially scientific information. One patent every 4 minutes, one scientific article every minute and a half. So this permanently augmenting quantity of data needs to be the object of real-time consideration, because it's also important not only to have the answer to your problem, but having the fresh news about the latest scientific development related to a potential solution to your problem. So let's put this into a simple equation that everybody can understand. Sparking the idea into the mind of a person, the people would say it's a neuronal connection. The neuronal connection, it means two elements that are critical to spark an idea into the brain of a person. I draw the hypothesis that an idea is the addition of a problem and a data that could potentially solve it, where I being the result of a human interpretation, there still need to be a human action, at least in the interpretation of the data we provide to the person. Then it's like, for those who are familiar with TRIZ, it's like when we suggest you an inventive principle or an inventive standard. It's up to you to adapt it to your own context and solution. So I being the result of a human being interpretation, the famous Eureka, and the problem being a problem automatically or humanly disclosed. So to set up a problem is probably one of the crucial information in TRIZ and in inventing in general, and transformed into a contradiction, because we really believe one of the added value of TRIZ is to transform an inventive situation into a contradiction. And D being the data extracted from whatever trustful content. If this data is in a patent, in a scientific paper, in a web news, in a report of MIT, it has to be matched, and some intelligent code, some intelligent API should track it, understand it, and submit it to you as an inventor. There is a new data appear in the world that potentially could solve your contradiction. So assisting the person with problem formulation, but also assisting the person to extract the data and pair the problem with the data, which is another problematic situation in which we're trying to contribute, how to efficiently pair a problem and a data. And this is crucial things if you want to succeed in having an artificial assistance. So the way we propose a framework behind of that is you have documents that are trustful, patents, scientific papers, scientific websites. You could target them. There are not so many. There are many, but there are not so many websites in which you could find such a population of data, like 100 30 millions of patents, like several hundred of 30 millions of scientific papers. There are not so many data lakes as big as that to feed our artificial intelligence models. Then I'm not inventing anything in artificial intelligence. I'm only and hopefully aware user of it only. So text mining, NLP, web scraping, machine or deep learning, these are the classical way, of course, with weekly novelties to operate the data extraction and data manipulation. And obviously, for what? For statistics, to pair the problem and the solution, to have mailbox alert, to use data viz technique in order to diffuse the result of the synthesis through graphs. And this is what we hope to achieve in terms of usefulness for the people. All of this to facilitate ideation, to boost innovation pipeline, to estimate idea potential. Once you have automated this process, you could approach an invention assistant. And this is what we are really looking for. So,
Excuse me, technology and particularly improving the technology through academics, how TRIZ helps you. So we expect it on a very basic level, because people out here are not TRIZ experts. And
okay,
I think
that's
and let's participants, let's make it informal. Please keep on asking your question. You can post it on chat box, or you can unmute yourself and just ask the question. And I'm sure Professor Denis will have answers for everything out here.
yeah, I don't have a monitoring, but on the question that might be asked, and I left some time at the end of the conversation, maybe to have some examples. But just to answer your question, you know, it's very easy. Everybody knows Google Scholar, which probably is the best place to find automated, clustered information about your publishing activities as a researcher. So you could easily type Google Scholar, find my name, and then see that I am author of probably several hundred publications, including last year. If I only take my publication in 2022, there are already many, only this year. I mean, so it's difficult for me to stop to one of them. But let's say that this is a task of every researcher. If we have researcher in this audience, as you say, they should know what is my problematic situation. It's my problematic situation is all the research I conduct with my PhD student needs to be transformed into knowledge that is expressible in a paper, to be claimed in a paper. So I structure each of the research activity with each of my PhD students with a planification of the publication of their work, as long as they have achievement to claim about. And this is the object of each publication you will see in this list. Currently, I am heading the PhD of Guillaume Garino together with my colleague Ahmed Samet, and you could see what are my latest publication with him as a main author, because the PhD with me is all the time the major author, and my colleague as an associate professor is coaching him every day, and me as a director of research and a full professor heading this research. I am the last author of the group, and every time it's as you can see, the story is about being reproduced year after year. And by just looking on the title, you could see that my major interest is what I've been claiming before. Even without talking about trees, you can feel trees as only a mean to achieve automated invention. Automated invention. If you look at how now classical artificial intelligence or research in artificial intelligence, or even in digitizing sciences like design sciences, for example, design processes. So wherever you are in as a researcher or as an academic, if you are looking to invention, innovation, processes to be more efficiently defined, TRIZ has a potential strong capacity to boost your research activity. I'm saying to all those of you who never heard about TRIZ in their research, to consider TRIZ as a way to see their own research differently through the prism of TRIZ. Because TRIZ, to make it simple for researcher, what is rich inside TRIZ? There are two axioms or postulate in TRIZ. The first axiom or postulate is that any inventive problem can be translated into the contradiction. Okay, let me take an example. I had not in mind to move back to the basic of TRIZ, but I could if it's interesting for you. You are all yeah.
Yes, Professor
Yeah,
Denis. Yes,
yeah.
what we want
Okay.
is like people should get inspired. Like when
Okay.
they learn this, what are the opportunities to them? That is the intention.
Okay. Let's say you are facing with a screen right now, all of you, mandatorily, because you are listening to me, unless you only have a headphone and you don't looking a screen, but you are looking a screen. Okay, this screen has a diagonal. This diagonal could be larger. If it's larger diagonal of a screen you are watching right now, you have a better visibility, right? But while accepting to have a better visibility, if you enlarge the diagonal of your screen, you also accept to have a space occupancy in your desk that can reach a point in such a way you degrade your environment and moreover the visibility of your colleagues, for instance. So having a large screen is interesting because you improve visibility, but on the same way you want it to be small, because if it's small, then you improve space occupancy and you totally free your desk and its surrounding. So what are you going to do? You're going to have a small screen, a small diagonal, or a large one? Would you like to have a 5-inch screen in which like a smartphone or a watch? Or would you like to have a 35-inch screen, which is enormous? You want both of them, in fact. And this is where TRIZ comes into play. Observing the situation to improve a parameter like visibility through the prism of the hidden contradiction behind. I want a large diagonal for visibility and a small one for space occupancy. And having the capacity to see every problem around you, around the R&D department, around whatever technical or engineering situation, is a strong capacity to formulate and solve problem. Why formulating problem? Because you observe realities through the prism of a contradiction. What is useful in the notion of a contradiction? It's a transportation mean between disciplines. So uh, uh, I don't have right now slides to support this, but it's very important for you to understand that if you reach the level of formulating a contradiction, then you have a transportation mean between disciplines, and you can go from your discipline to any other discipline using the prism of a contradiction. And then once you have a contradiction and once you are able to go into the other discipline, you are able to find an information that is likely to solve your problem. It will, of course, become inventive because you cannot know everything about anything. You have your own field of expertise. TRIZ could provide you this capacity to have a travel, a journey between disciplines due to the mean of the presence of a vehicle. This vehicle is the contradiction. If all of you are looking at a screen, you also above of you, what do you have? You have probably light. Okay, let me guess improving brightness. You could add more light into your room right now. Then you won't be in the dark. But if you have more light in your room, you also degrade the energy consumption. So do you need many light to have a better brightness, or do you want small quantity of light to improve energy consumption? You need both, and accepting the fact that it's a contradiction between brightness and energy consumption, and using this way of formulating problem gives you a vehicle to transport your problem to any other discipline in which you could find analogous situation that have been already resolved, maybe in chemistry, maybe in biotechnology, maybe in nature, doing biomimetism. So this is why the notion of trees, from its fundamental, it's an ontology. It's a new way of structuring knowledge and structuring data in order to formulate problem in a different way through the prism that will become useful for solving it. And you solve it by changing discipline to find an answer. So whatever you will find in this list of paper I had the honor of publishing, you will find one of the milestones of my research as a researcher into the field of not only trees, but using trees within the context of either digitizing it, either applying it in a field and obtaining innovative results, because most of the time people are thinking in terms of optimization. They don't think in terms of changing discipline to associate a problem with a solution. They try to make their best within the circle of the knowledge of the discipline. So that's why every of you, whatever field you are, you will take benefit of approaching problem solving through the prism of trees. That's to my mind an interesting aspect of beginning into trees. So I don't know if I have answered the question you were asking, how to attract
Yes. It was
people
very
to trees.
interesting. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Any other question? There are a couple of questions on the
Don't hesitate.
chat box.
Don't hesitate. I'm with you
Yeah.
up to the time I have my next course. So no problem.
Yes, yes. Anyone would like to ask question? I'll take a question from chat box. Excuse me.
There's a chat box.
Maybe there is a way
I'll
for me
read
to.
it for you. What is the advantage of using AI to assist invention process over using classical trees? But
Okay,
as you go ahead with this, Professor Denis,
yes.
I'm so sorry. I would like to ask you, like, how to get the students motivated towards the trees in
Okay.
academics, because in India
Okay.
still it is not very much popular among students and academicians. So if we can tell them how it can increase the speed of understanding, placement, undergoing research, or for that matter going for PhDs, something like that.
Okay. Yes.
And
So let me
Professor
show
Dennis,
you.
before you
Yes.
continue with this answer, just
Sure.
supplementing Dr. Vankate's question, how did it start in your university? Because you would have started somewhere. So how did it start? Because in India, not I don't see any university implementing TRIZ to the fullest. So
It's
probably you can explain it from your own university.
yeah. I would like to make an analogy, but this my answer would be have you ever heard the story of Don Quixote? Yeah. Don Quixote, it's a Spanish story about a man who was fighting against a windmill.
Yes.
Don Quixote and his friend Sancho Panza. That's for those who have read this book, this wonderful book, you will see that it's an adventure. You will be ready to fight. Be ready to fight with an established establishment, and you arrive. We have a proverb in France, like a hair on the soup. We arrive and we are disturbing the establishment with something new, something disturbing. But trees has this power to be powerful. So by convincing your colleagues, you can't stay alone, obviously. First of all, they need to be a single person that believes in it so strongly that he engage himself. into it, into the administration, into the academical structure. If you are a professor, if you are associate or full, at that time I was only a PhD student, and I convinced my director to hire or to try to hire Russian experts. I had the chance to work in close collaboration several years with Nikolai Komenko. We had the chance to associate us with an expert, Dmitry Kusharavi, for several years, and this was the beginning. First, you need to convince people and build a strong team inside your university to defend the diffusion of trees inside. Alone, you won't be able to do a lot of things. So the idea is you need first to believe it yourself and be ready to dedicate time to it yourself. And then also try to convince around you, become to build a core team of believers, and always convincing in a wider and wider circle. If you can start small and think big, it's better. You start small by introducing 4 hours lecture, 12 hours lecture, a complete module of 24 hours, etc., etc. And little by little, you touch mechanical department, you touch electrical department, you touch civil engineering department. You enlarge it up to the point that your school is a trees school, or your school is at least carrying the teaching of the notion of trees to as many as possible students within the school. Start small, but think big, and effort by effort, trees is working. Your strongest ally in that is the fact that trees is working. So trees will produce results that no other methodology can reach. And this is your best ally into this quest of convincing people around you. Now,
Right.
let me,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
let me show you just an example, because if I have the screen, I can also show you how I do it in my university. In my university, I create an environment of work. So here, ideas, inventive design, learning system. This is a totally new platform that all of my students access to it. Though you have currently 600 user, organization, universities, sessions, teams, and projects. So if, for instance, you want to see a trees project, I can show you a trees project. Okay, let me show you a project of my student. So if you provide to students a platform, a web platform with web tools that are able to assist you in formulating your problematic situation about an object, you will motivate the student. I mean, when I show the platform to the students, say you will digitally act in group in project, and you could be able to run your trees project using a tool that is collaborative, web-based, and that will be able to drive you through the teaching of trees, the learning of trees, and through the use of trees in projects. It's easier to convince a student when you benefit from such tools. And of course, behind of this, you need to have the way to operate trees through the tools to help formulate contradiction, way to solve the problem using matrix, for instance. So of course, if you give the matrix in terms of a tool in a paper format, it won't work. But if you give the matrix to the student in a digitized form with the capacity to build statistics, access to inventive principle, and brainstorm on this inventive principle, you have a tool that is a modern tool that students appreciate. If you give them an A3 paper format, with a student of nowadays, it won't work. I mean, that's why I'm saying you need to believe in the way you will succeed in convincing students, but you need to have weapons for that. The weapons are trees itself, but also your own contribution.
Right, how to make it interesting. It is really great. And
Yeah.
As you go ahead, Professor Dennis, I would like to know when you say school, so at what age a student should learn this? And in Paris, do they have something in their kindergarten level or primary education that is imbibed in the syllabus or curriculum?
Yeah, it's mostly a module that we call inventive design or innovative design and innovation. Inventive design and innovation. This is a major title we could find in every curriculum. Civil engineering, mechanical engineering, plastic engineering. So when you have a department, first of all, I need to convince the head of that department to leave some spaces for that course. Start small and then attract the student. The feedback of the student is also very important. The student you are teaching trees to through the tools, they have to be enthusiastic with what they have learned with you. And then the noise the next year is maybe to enlarge the volume of hours you have. And little by little, the course become a standard in the curriculum of a student. But the way we decided to name it in our university is inventive design and innovation. We don't call it trade. We call it inventive design and innovation. And within this new way of defining the course, we do trees inside, but we don't obviously say it in the title of the course. Uh, they will learn that there is trees behind up to starting from the first lecture. And then after, you are able to convince people with the module and the project, because students really believe in trees at the end of a project. They say, my greatest thank that I can have from my students in when at the end they can tell me, Professor, uh, at the beginning we brainstormed and we were convinced trees could not bring anything new from our brainstorming. And we learned at the end that the idea we find, we couldn't succeed in having this idea without trees. So that when the student understand that the methodology has an impact to the fact that they reach an idea that they will never have found without trees, you're succeed. Now your course is legitimated everywhere through the mouse voice and of your student with the next student coming up. And your course become little by little unavoidable in the curriculum of an engineer, because nowadays I don't know any university that is not preparing their engineer for innovation and for problem solving. This is probably the major skill expected in the next 20 years, the capacity of an engineer or a scientist to solve problems. So if you attach your strategy of introducing trees in your university to this fact, we need to train better problem solver, and I'm teaching inventive problem solving. How could a head of department refuse to introduce your course? At least make a test or a trial.
Right,
So
right. That is a good suggestion again, Professor Dennis. I would like to know, like, this is about when they come to engineering, but what about when they are in schools at an early age, maybe a 9 or 10 years old kid?
I am not really aware of that. I'm just aware of some of my colleagues from younger school who are from a earlier generation. In France, we call it lycée or college. In lycée is up to the baccalaureate. You know, this is some kind of diploma you have at the end of the high school and before going to university. This is the grade you get when you get 18 or 19, 18 years old. And at this level, the French government decided to open a module dedicated to trees for in the technological field, but it's optional. It's called creativity and innovation, and this module can be taken in the lycée and the high school or junior high school, and they could and we train the professors of that level to the basic of trees, and they use it for people of a younger age, like from 15 to 18. If you go to younger, like a younger school, I have not really been aware of things. There are some, maybe one or two professors of younger school who are now interested in transferring in trees. And I obviously, you know, some of the books, like the books of Nikolai Komenko of Thoughtivity for Kids. Those are books that are for professors in order to help them construct a lesson for kids using basics of trees for it. But behind of this, there is always the same goal. The goal is to awake imagination in a kid, but awake not through stimulation, awake through methodology, how to methodically and analyze realities around you and how to build an efficient strategy of being inventive, whether you are a kid or an engineer. And I know some professors are talking it, but it's out of my own scope of competences.
That's really great, and definitely we'll seek your help on implementing the TRIZ in not only India but very many other countries who are not yet formally teaching TRIZ to the students. Let it be
Okay.
for college, engineering colleges, or for any other. We know that
Mm-hmm.
TRIZ does not have any domain. We can implement it in any other case. So our today's format was more about question answer and making the people who are trying to learn threes, getting them an idea. If we learn threes, what would be the benefits of that? And definitely, Professor Dennis, will ask more time from you at a later stage wherein we can have some session in details. And
Mm-hmm.
meanwhile, there is one interesting discussion going on chat box, and wherein
Okay.
it is asked like whether we should go through all the TRIZ tools or we should learn some major, because there may be some strong TRIZ tool or some weak TRIZ tools. So I would like to have your quick view on that, because we are on the closing time. We
Okay.
generally close it at 5, but today we'll go 5 minutes more. So
Don't. My major advice, very rapidly, would be don't try to go too far in the confusion of the people that are ready to learn. If you try to do all of the tools at the same time, you won't succeed. People that know trees are different from people that want to learn about trees. If you know trees already, you are enthusiastic with all the tools, 9 windows, contradiction matrix, Sue-field modeling, arrays. And if you start with all of that in a package to a person that is starting, you're dead. Your willingness to succeed is dead because you confuse him. It's too much. My advice is you should start with only something simple, like I've been telling you, with the notion of contradiction, with the notion of ideality, maybe a little bit about evolution trends, but start small. Ideality, resource, contradiction notion, laws of evolution, that would be already marvelous. Don't try to do arrays or Sue-field at the first time. Um, do it maybe in a second run if you feel that there is an enthusiastic person as you are that is willing to learn all trees. Then you go deeper with that person or that group of person. But at the beginning, for newcomers, be simple. Be simple in order to attract them. Because if you don't, it's the contrary that happened. You frighten them and they move away from tea because they think like half of the world that I've heard about trees, it's too complex. So don't do that. Start small with efficient things, and when the people start to succeed with little things, you can already be very successful with the notion of contradiction and inventive principle, and then go to the next stage only if the person is enthusiastic to go.
yes, that was a brilliant answer. And of course, TRIZ tools, it takes some time to get assimilated and then digest it and get the results out of that. So going slow would
Mhm.
be a good like a suggestion, and which we would also like to implement while we are teaching TRIZ.
Maybe
So
one last thing. I don't know how the culture of every country obviously is different, but keep in mind also that trees is not you can't be only academia thinking about trees. You can't be only teaching, and industry alone with trees is also can't do it. it's a team activity in a country. There should have academia, teacher, scientists, and industrial people should support you. It's a team activity to convince inside a country. So don't stay alone as an
Right.
academic person. Try to convince, and this a strong industrial key player in your country to partner with you in the diffusion of trees internally in your university.
And we need to develop an entire ecosystem before we go ahead with this. And the
Yeah.
same we are attempting, we are trying hard for doing it. And at some extent, we are successful as well.
And
So,
I have good memories in Bangalore when I came
oh,
provide a a trees talk in Bangalore to my scientific colleagues. So I know in every country it's starting. I see people from Malaysia here. I see people from France. I see people from many countries. So I mean, I'm convinced you will be successful because it reminds me 27 years ago when I started. Myself, as a plastic engineer, I did not believe in trees. And somebody make me convinced that trees works. Then I start little to test, and I was so amazed by the result. I spent my entire life on it. But to be enthusiastic into trees, it's necessitate first to be yourself convinced,
right.
and
So
and
there
then
is
you
a
will
similar,
convince the others.
right. There is a question on similar lines that will this help me accelerate my completing my PhD?
If you had settled that at the beginning, probably yes. If you are doing it like a hair on the soup at the end, no. I mean,
Okay.
to my mind, the answer is yes. If you think about it, not too far
Okay.
in your PhD program. I think the second year is too late.
Okay.
If within the first year it's okay, the second year at the beginning when you start to set your methodology, maybe. But if you are happening to use trees on the last year when you're supposed to write down your thesis, it's too late.
Yes, yes, yes. And in fact, before finalizing the topic of TRIZ, topic of PhD itself, we should implement the ideas through TRIZ. So that will help us out to accelerate the PhD.
I'm convinced if you are at the very beginning of the problem setup, the way to understand how the situation is and how to strike out the key problematic situation of your domain is a good way to introduce a subject and also to make a robust demonstration on and legitimate your research activity.
Yes, thank you so much. There is one participant who is asking, could you share the website you are sharing? Because well,
Sure. No
yeah,
problem.
that would
The
be
only thing is I'm in order not to overload our server,
yes.
what we are doing is we are trying to associate only
Okay.
academics, people or people who have the willingness to introduce their trees into their administration, into their academical structure. Then I need to have a referent person in an academic, and I need him to have intentions, not
Right.
just to test, but a real intention to diffuse it in a classroom with students. And then it's a very simple. You know, we have one more organization, one more administrator of that organization, and
Okay.
then he could administrate courses inside his university. If I found such people in the audience, I'll be glad to help them introducing trees in their university.
That is so nice of you. So as we are nearing to the end, one last minute is there. If you want to give some concluding remark.
Yeah, the I see on the chat somebody talking about Trees40. Yeah, Trees40.com. Yeah, Trees40.com is one more website operating Trees Matrix, but it's non-intelligent. I mean, if you need to convince in Trees40, you don't have very much more than a paper format, but digitalized and like an Excel sheet, but organized through a window and the front end. But in the matrix I propose, I have also artificial intelligence who automates the association with between parameters, for instance. But These are things we could discuss face to face with a person. No, my last thing is I hope I succeed in convincing you to go into Tree's world. It's a fascinating world.
Yes,
It's an enthusiastic world, and with a lot of fans, a lot of enthusiastic people come to this world because it's not a world in which people are fighting with each other. There might used to be fight between Russian people, but let's say when we work together hand in hand with India, with Malaysia, with everywhere in the world, trees is like a family. Trees
right.
is every country I go, I know I have a trees friend somewhere.
Absolutely.
So if you come to France and or to Strasbourg, you know that you have a trees friend, and I'm here.
So nice of you. Okay, so at the end, on behalf of TRIZ Association of Asia, I would like to thank you, Professor Denis, for giving such an enlightenment to the participants, and at a larger
Yeah.
extent, motivating them to learn TRIZ.
Yeah, I have maybe one last thing if you give me 2 seconds, but I forgot to tell, but I have behind me, I have a Fab Lab. And
Okay.
when your ideas are transformed with 3D machines, inventive ideas into objects, like this one or others I have plenty of objects that my students are using 3D machines. You are convincing engineers that trees is not only blah, blah. Trees is
Yes,
something serious that can be led to prototype. And if you have a Fab Lab in your university associated to TRIZtalks, it's tremendous because
great.
it's thoughts, ideas, and physical prototypes.
Yes. It
Thank you
was a
very much.
wonderful last punch, I would say, which is driving us further towards learning
Yeah,
TRIZ. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you so much,
You're
Professor.
welcome.
Yeah, yeah. And
Bye.
definitely this is
Yeah.
not enough, and we are going to invite you for a complete session wherein we'll be it would be kind of a webinar which you can conduct, and
Mhm.
wherein we can learn many things from you. Thank you so much,
Okay. I'll do
Professor
my
Denis.
best. Thank you
Yes,
very much.
yes, yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you for
Yeah.
listening. Thank you for your questions. Bye.
Yes. Thank you, participants, for
Thank you.
joining
Thank you.
us. And
Thank you.
we are looking forward to you on 30th of December, which would be the another last Friday of December, wherein we'll be again coming with some Triz expert, and he'll be again delighting us with their knowledge. And please stay tuned. We'll keep on informing you who all are coming. Thank you. Have a great day ahead.